Hello, women's hockey fans. Erica Ayala here, bringing you a bonus episode of the Founding Four podcast. As you likely know, we are an independent-run, NWHL-centric women's hockey podcast. But this being a bonus episode, we are going to talk about the PWHPA, and that is because I will be joined by Jordan Juron. Now, Jordan Juron signed a professional tryout, a PTO, with the Boston Pride this past weekend. She played in that series up in Buffalo against her former NWHL team. But it's no secret that Jordan Juron, along with the overwhelming majority of the Buttes team from last season, joined up with the For the Game movement, which of course has evolved into the PWHPA. She also played in a PWHPA showcase. So I talked to Jordan a little bit about her decision-making process, what the process from her experience in the PWHPA was like, and some of the reasons why, in her effort to simply want to play hockey, as she said, she told that to me, she told that to Melissa Burgess, that this, at this particular time, made sense for her. We also talk about what that means moving forward. Here's my interview with Jordan Juron. The opportunity to return to the NWHL, but with a different team than you had played for previous seasons. How did this first come up to the radar? Was it something you were looking for? Was it Boston reaching out?
It was actually extremely random and last minute. I no longer live in Buffalo anymore. I moved to Syracuse for a new job. And I was up this weekend visiting my boyfriend. He plays at Canisius, so I was coming up to watch. They had a series with RIT. And I happened to go over to the hotel that the Pride were staying at to see Kaylee Fracken, who I played at BU with. And I took her out to Whole Foods to get some food, dropped her back off. And about 30 minutes later, their coach was texting me, asking me if I wanted to play, and I just happened to have my bag in the car. Because sometimes I skate with my boyfriend when they have open ice or something like that. And I was like, my bag's in the car, like I can play. And I talked about it with my family quick and with him quick, and it just seemed like a great fun opportunity to play with a bunch of teammates and girls that I played against in the Hockey East and with Assabet in the past. And it's just hockey when it comes down to it, and I thought it would be a lot of fun.
Wow, that's amazing. Whole Foods making the connection, eh?
I mean, I found out I was playing in that game 3 hours before the game started.
Wow. But they say if you're always ready to go, you never have to get ready, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would have definitely chosen a different meal the night before if I knew I was going to be putting in the minutes.
What led up to kind of you wanting to put your name and your weight behind the concept of For the Game?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as everyone knows, our entire Buffalo team, minus 2 players, decided to do it collectively as a whole and stick together. And at the time, it was just, all right, like, there's this great opportunity. There's a lot of things that could possibly happen for the future of women's hockey. Like, let's all stick together. We loved our Buffalo team, and we made that decision collectively as a whole. And I mean, it was all the stuff that's come out, all the conversations, everything has been super, super positive with everything that has to do with the PWHPA. And I know they've put on some great events, and they're definitely making a lot of progress behind the scenes. And I mean, I know that they had a big turnout, I think, at some games they played this weekend. So I think what they're doing is great as well.
Yeah, I think that it's been an adjustment period. I think there are a lot of emotional feelings, but I think what you said, it kind of leans more towards, I think, where we're getting, in that there's more than one way, as you say, to skin a cat or to play professional women's ice hockey. And again, that's kind of what I want to pick your brain on. You're in this unique situation. You've come from the NWHL, as you said, and played with that Buttes team that had the support of the Pagula Sports Entertainment, which was groundbreaking in its own way. And then you join up with the PWHPA, which again is really trying to bring a different type of conversation to women's professional ice hockey. hockey, and you were able to play in a showcase model, which is different than what we've seen the CWHL do, and certainly different than what the NWHL is doing. So I want to, again, flash forward through your timeline a little bit here to get to, if I'm not mistaken, New Hampshire was your first PWHPA showcase. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yep, that's the first one that I played in.
Okay, excellent. So let's go to kind of what that experience was, and I'm looking for anything from what you remember as far as the crowd and the fans, to maybe some of the logistics that were, again, just different than what you had been accustomed to with the Buttes in the past seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing event. I know Mr. Flanagan had a lot to do with using that Cyclones arena. With the PWHPA, I was part of the Buffalo region. But when we went out to New Hampshire, they split the Buffalo region up onto some teams, and I ended up playing with primarily the group of girls from Boston, which again, like, obviously I played at Boston University. I played for Assabet prior. I knew a bunch of the girls in the room, so it was easy to walk into that locker room. It was fun. They had a travel coordinator to coordinate all the flights. I actually had a horrible trip out there, but we don't need to get into that, with flight delays, and I missed the team bus and all of that. But we stayed in a really nice hotel. It was a lot of fun. The place was packed. My dad was telling me that he was standing it was like 3 rows back from the glass in places where people were standing. And it was a great showcase of hockey and skill and competition. And I think it really, everything they're doing is positive.
Yeah, I think, and again, it's a new way of trying to tap into a market. I think sports is changing, right? And in some ways, we have 2 examples of the ways in which sports are changing. You have a more traditional model. You have teams. You have franchises. You have owners. You have, free agency, and you sign players, and that's more of what we see now that exists currently with the NWHL. But then there's kind of, I think it's accredited mostly to lacrosse, particularly men's lacrosse, or even if you look at the big 3, right, what they're doing in basketball, where you have this kind of, barnstorming, going back to the roots of sports, and have a barnstorming where you can make not just a league, but you make these events. You really build momentum around the sport by way of having these showcase events.
That's right what you just said. That's how I always used to explain it. So I'd ask people, do you know what the PLL is, the new lacrosse league with Paul Rabel and everything like that? And I mean, I think they had great success, and it's different. It's a different idea than cheering for a city's team. It's cheering for these players, and it's cheering for the sport in general, not just for a particular city.
Yeah, and I think as with anything, from a meal to a pair of shoes to a sports league, I think it depends on who you are and what you're looking for, and also if you happen to live in a market where you can have a stable team and investors and places where athletes want to play. But I want to ask you this question, Jordan. What excites you about the possibility of having that as something for a women's sports model, and maybe what are some of the challenges or things that maybe not even a challenge, but just things that you still have questions about, because it is a little bit of a stray from what maybe most people are used to when they see sports?
Well, I think right now, obviously there's a lot up in the air. There's a lot going behind the scenes that I'm not privy to, and a lot of people aren't privy to. In terms of what the future of women's hockey looks like, I don't know what that's going to look like, but I think that regardless of the players that are playing in the NWHL and the players that are playing in the PWHPA, the collective goal is to form a sustainable future for women's hockey, and to give these little girls that come to the rink and that may be the only girl on their boys team the hope and the dream that, there is something else for you to do. There's another level. There's something for you to strive for. And I think that's, when it comes down to it, the game is the same no matter the format that you're in, the league that you're playing in. It's hockey. It's 3 periods. You're trying to put the puck in the net. You're trying to win games. And if we can inspire girls across any of these platforms to continue to follow their dreams and pursue playing in the positions that we're in, then we're doing it right.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. But you and I both know, and you certainly more than me, that there are, how should I put this? There are challenges to that aspirational, statement and sentiment, right? And some of them are that right now, the overwhelming conversation in women's hockey is one of contention. And I think we've kind of, that existed, of course, before when the CWHL and NWHL existed, but I think we're seeing some of that renewed. And the reason I want to offer that as just the reality is because I do wonder what players make of that. And I'm sure it varies person to person, but for you, Jordan, how much of that do you think rings true? How much are there pieces of that that you think are maybe misunderstood that you'd like to maybe set the record straight on? And where do you hope that this this kind of dialogue that we have, this conflict that we have now, where do you hope it will take the product of women's ice hockey?
Well, I mean, I think the end goal between either side of this debate, this argument, is to have a sustainable future for women's hockey, to have a pro league that you can play in and make a living off of. Obviously, I mean, we have to be realistic. It's never going to be making the same money that the men make. We're not going to be signing $1 million contracts, but to be signing contracts enough to support a living without having to work another job, and to be able to fully invest in hockey itself, training, practicing, skating, playing all the games, not having to worry about working a 9-to-5 job and rushing to a rink at 10 p.m. or at 6:30 a.m. before work to get a skate in. I mean, I think that's the end game no matter what league you're looking at. And I think that everyone can agree on that. In terms of like where I stand on things, I personally am. I mean, I broke my back last year. I have a full-time job that is lucrative in its own self that I'm going to obviously be focusing on. Right now, for me, it wasn't where do my allegiances lie? What do I support more than the other? The opportunity came about for me to play some hockey with some teammates and have some fun out there, and I think it was just a decision to take it just because I love the game of hockey, not because I believe in a certain thing. I mean, I believe in having something for these little girls to look up to and to strive for. That's as far as I can comment in terms of allegiances or the debate in whole.
Yeah. I think.
Did I answer all of those questions?
Yeah, I think you got it. Okay. And now I will now get us into kind of the more of the logistics stage of things, just because I don't get an opportunity every time to talk to again a player that's kind of seen both sides. So first kind of logistic going off of what you said is, to your knowledge, does your participation in a PTO in the NWHL eliminate you from being able to participate in any PWHPA showcases upcoming?
Yes, prior to the game, about 2 hours before I played yesterday, when that media announcement went out around 5:45, I received a text from someone in the PWHPA stating that I will be removed from all future events and rosters.
Okay, so it seems as though, although you're open to, from what you just said, that although you're open to an opportunity and you'll take an opportunity as it comes, that it seems as though, as of right now at least, the PWHPA is not an option for you.
No, it's not, and I had a feeling that, I mean, obviously no one else has done it yet. No one else has made that jump. I can't speak to what anyone else is thinking about in terms of where they want to play, but I did it because I wanted to play some hockey. I wanted to have some fun, and I actually will be finishing the season with Boston.
Oh, very nice. That was another question on my list.
Yeah, the logistics of that haven't been completely worked out or signed, pen to paper yet, signed or anything like that. But I will be finishing the season with the Pride.
All right.
In the NWHL.
Okay, very cool. Well, I mean, that's a pretty good team to join up with. They are rolling this year. My goodness, what a team.
17-0.
My gosh. And I have a few more logistical questions that I do want to get into. And then I want to come back to you playing with Boston. The other question that I had is... it seems like you were looking for, Jordan, an opportunity to play. So just by following logic, it seems as though maybe not as many opportunities to play in a showcase like you did in New Hampshire were available. So the question that I want to ask is, again, more of a structural question. How, from your experience, were opportunities divvied out when it came to PWHPA showcases?
So how that worked is that you have the showcases, but then there's a bunch of those single games that go on. They're sometimes during the week, sometimes on a Sunday. In terms of the Buffalo region, for things that we were offered, a lot of them were up in Ontario or somewhere not too far over the border. I played in that Hudson, New Hampshire showcase. And other than that, my name hadn't come up for rosters for either the Toronto showcase or the Philadelphia showcase, which are the ones that have been announced at this point. But I was given opportunities to play in those single games. But with not living in Buffalo anymore, it made it a little difficult to be able to commit to driving to Buffalo and then getting on a bus and going all the way up to an hour and a half over the border, playing a game, back to Buffalo, and then driving back to Syracuse. So those kind of weren't really working out with my schedule. I would say there was probably 3 or 4 games that I was sent an email about to play in. In terms of how it works, from my understanding, is a lot of it's based on location and travel. Obviously, some of the teams, they don't really mix the regions on some of them, and other teams that don't have as many players committed to the regions, they mix the teams up. But yeah, I mean, that's right. I guess I only had that opportunity to play in the one showcase and a couple single games, and yeah, I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So like I said, I mean, I could keep you on the phone for days, but I'm not going to do that. But because I do want to get to, this team that you're on and talking about the hockey that it seems presumably is ahead of you. So you come into a PTO situation, as you mentioned, maybe didn't have the meal that you wanted before hitting the ice. But you come into a situation where, the Boston Pride are going up against your former team and looking to stay perfect. I mean, were there any expectations? How did you game plan? I mean, you kind of got thrown into what could be easily a pretty epic battle, knowing firsthand how Boston and Buffalo games go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think there were expectations set. I think in terms of expectations, I wanted to go out there. I wanted to play hard. Obviously, I knew it was going to take a little bit to get my legs back under me and to find some chemistry with the line mates that I was playing with. In terms of playing against my former team, only Taylor Accursi and Corinne Bowie were on the team last year. So a lot of new faces for the Buttes, but I think that, yeah, anytime that you play in Buffalo, obviously I played here and the fans are great. The city loves their hockey. So I expected it to be a fun arena, fun atmosphere to play in. But this Boston team is awesome. They're firing on all cylinders. It's a great locker room to walk into. And like I said, I've played with half the team, and I know pretty much everyone else just from playing throughout the years. So I think the expectation was just to go out there and play hockey. And obviously putting on that Boston uniform, the expectation is to win.
Yeah, and you had some logistical challenges with the PWHPA, but now that you're joining up with Boston, have you kind of started to game plan what that will look like as far as hitting the ice more frequently? Will you be able to make practices? Will you kind of just be a road warrior for them? I know it's still early, but how much of that have you talked through with folks from the Pride?
I talked to the coaches after the game. They were really excited with how the weekend went and with me as a player. And we're going to have more conversations. I think they just, obviously with everything going on right after the game, they didn't want to just throw a bunch of things at me. I know they were trying to catch a flight. So all that's really been said is that we'll talk this week. We'll work out what everything looks like. And I plan on being in Boston next week for practice on Thursday. I've got a lot of good friends there in terms of places to stay, and we'll just go from there. I think those questions will be answered in the days to come. Yeah, for sure. And this game, I'm actually here at the Riveters and Minnesota game, and it's getting a little crazy. So it's going to only get louder from here. But the good news is, Jordan, with you being on the Boston roster, I'm actually one of the announcers there. So I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to catch up. But I do want to thank you for just kind of walking me through, and great game. Congrats on the point, and I'll be seeing you soon. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Take care. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this bonus episode of the Founding Four podcast. I want to close out this episode by saying, for me, Jordan Juron's unique situation is not... I see that a lot of people are using this to make sweeping indictments of the PWHPA and the NWHL. I hope that through my conversation with Jordan that you were able to acknowledge that, at least for Jordan, and my guess is for a lot of other people that are involved, particularly the players that are involved in post-college and professional women's hockey, that the decision-making, there's a lot that goes into it. And each player, particularly as they want to elongate their professional careers, has decisions that they need to make that are contingent on a lot of things, not excluding, of course, major things like having an additional job, which is still where we are in women's hockey, and location. So that's what I want to offer. I hope that Jordan's conversation, or my conversation with Jordan, in some ways speaks for itself. It's the start of a very interesting conversation as we move forward in women's hockey, whether it be with Jordan or other people in professional women's hockey. I hope to continue to be able to shed some light on everything from process for a player to also logistics for the PWHPA and the NWHL moving forward. As always, thanks for tuning in to the Founding Four podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.